Dude, you have to check out this new show, Rumpelstiltskin's Revenge. It's so flipping cool, and it's premiering for the first time ever, right now! Yeah, I know, dude, it's so good, right? I love the scene where Worma kisses Ubert and... What? It's being canceled already? No, you're totally pulling my right? You can't be serious. So we're never getting a full season of this? We'll never get an episode 2? I'll never get to find out what happens to Gormy? This is so unfair! Thank goodness this kind of thing never happens in video games.
She was completely f***ing wrong.
The mid to late 2000s saw the rise of digital game storefronts like Steam, Xbox Live Arcade, and WiiWare, and along with them rose the popularity of episodic video games. If you are an indie studio or even a major publisher, there's plenty of reasons why such a release model would be so enticing. It gave developers an opportunity to make a bite-sized portion of a larger experience and sell it to players at a cheaper price than usual. We're not talking full-fledged sequels that often retool a game's mechanics from the ground up. In theory, it's a great way to give players a cheap segment of one larger game, one bit at a time. Get players hooked on episode 1, receive funds from people buying the first episode to make more episodes, and then rinse and repeat with further episodes until the entire game is finished. But while this episodic model sounds flawless, it did notably help turn developers like Telltale into massive success stories. I hope that everyone watching is familiar with what past tense is. This release strategy also came with a laundry list of potential catastrophic problems. What if nobody buys episode 1 of your game and then you don't get enough money to even make more episodes? What if people straight up just don't care to see more of what the game has to offer at all after the first episode? Publishers and developers always want the best result possible for these projects, especially publishers. They like money, but whether a game ends up being canceled or we only get a few episodes of a planned season, it happens really damn often. And that got me thinking, how many planned episodic games only managed to fart out one single solitary episode before being completely abandoned and forgotten forever? We're going to be taking a look at short-lived episodic titles and any games that were so sure of themselves that they advertised more episodes would be coming on the box before you even started playing. I'm not going to be counting every single game that ever sequel baited, to be clear, because if we were counting that, we'd be in this video for fucking ever. Okay, so while the beginning of the digital age of video games is when episodic releases started to actually become a popular and sometimes viable option, I was really surprised to find out just how many physically released retro games had the same hubris as Doug's first movie.
We got an oversized package here. Let's see what's inside. Hopefully it's that Doug's first movie on VHS, and it's Doug's first movie on VHS. That's sweet D on V, baby.
Our first game takes us all the way back to 2001, a year when an infamous nationwide tragedy hit the United States. That's right, you know what I'm talking about. When Floigan Bros Episode 1 released on the Sega Dreamcast. The story of how Sega ended up failing so hard in the console market could make for its own 10-hour-long video, but their final console ever was discontinued in 2001, less than 2 years after launch, even though major titles like Sonic Adventure 2 were still in the pipeline. But there was another title in development for Sega's ill-fated white box, Floigan Bros, a game in development hell so long that it ended up being sharded into the world unceremoniously, despite Sega and developer Visual Concepts originally having really high hopes for this game's success. And when I say really high hopes, I kid you not when I tell you that one of the co-founders of Visual Concepts, Greg Thomas, said, and I quote, "Floigan will do for Sega what Mario did for Nintendo." I, for one, am so ready to experience Sega's Mario Killer because it wasn't gonna be Sonic, apparently. Let's find out if it was a crime against humanity that we never got a Floigan Bros Episode 2 on the original Xbox or something. Also, I can't neglect to mention that this game literally says you can carry abilities from episode to episode. This was coming out when the Dreamcast was dead. They were literally just lying. How would this transfer to like an Xbox, a GameCube, a PS2? Like, what the fuck are they promising with that? That's just a straight up fucking lie. The game stars Heugel and Moigel Floigel. I mean, Floigan, two cartoony wacky brothers who own and live in a stink-ass junkyard. Hoigel's the short, skinny, smart one, and Moigel's the big, fat, dumb one. You already know the trope. You take control of Hoigel, and since it's his birthday today, you and your disgusting frog fingers have to help Moigel on his mission to build you a surprise birthday present. And despite the low-key plot, they somehow managed to stuff a villain in here too, named Baron Malnutritious.
They weren't lying.
He wants to kill the Floigans and take over their junkyard from his discount Cortex Vortex because, I don't know, maybe he's a big Fat Albert fan? One thing I adore about the Dreamcast is its incredibly creative and weird exclusive games. A bunch of them are pretty damn good too. Pen Trisalon is pretty fun when you ignore the blatant racism. There aren't many games out there like Floigan Bros, that's for sure. Floigan is a bizarre mix of an adventure game and a fat nephew babysitting simulator. The goal of Floigan Bros is to find all the pieces Moigel needs to finish his surprise for Hoigel by exploring the game's small open world in the brothers' junkyard. You find these pieces by forcing Moigel to help you complete certain tasks, or by completing mind-numbingly boring minigames. Moigel is controlled by an admittedly pretty impressive AI system for the time. You have to manage your brother's emotions, or as they call it, emotional gameplay, and play little schoolhouse games with him in order to convince him into doing what you want. Need Moigel to get pissed off and send you into the stratosphere? Just commit a little harmless domestic violence. It's that easy, gamers. This game teaches the player that physically harming and gaslighting your family members can be fun! As much as I can appreciate this game for its innovative partner AI and incredibly impressive animation quality, it's crazy how good the squatch and stretch is in a game that predates something like Jak and Daxter. Unfortunately, the developers did forget something extremely important. They forgot to make the game fun to play. This game might be a technically impressive and visual treat, but my god, is it a miserable slog to play. The camera gets caught on everything, and you always have to come to a complete stop to punch or use any items. I got screwed over so many times by accidentally diving from a run, and you'll soon find out that it's your stupid brother that causes the most misery out of anything. Moigel has a mind of his own and constantly wants you to do what he wants to do. He's always being distracted by random things, and he really wants you to play high five with him every goddamn minute. I personally didn't have much fun spending minutes on end repeatedly using the same tactics to try and convince him to actually fucking do something that I needed him to do. Imagine babysitting your fat nephew and having to tell him over and over and over that he needs to go to bed for 10 minutes straight before he finally gives up and does it. Does that sound fun to you? You have to teach Moigel new abilities in order to find all the pieces for his definitely not a nuclear bomb surprise. And like any good brother, Moigel forces Hoigel and himself into needless sibling rivalry by awarding points to whichever brother wins at thrilling games like High Five and Hide and Seek. This judgmental freak refuses to learn any new abilities unless you have enough points by winning these extremely repetitive games. This point system sucks. The devs expect the player to engage in Moigel's whims more than I personally wanted to, because playing High Five 50 times in a row, for whatever reason, just didn't sound very enticing. Plus, you can still lose at these games too, earning you 0 points, and that's really deflating. Luckily, there's a strategy that I found that makes this hellscape over with as quick as possible. You can also use Moigel Coin to unlock more games you can play with him to earn those delicious points. Ready pro tip: do not waste 40 points on a more challenging game that might net you 10 points per win. It is not worth the time sink at all. Instead, go for unlocking the tag game, then walk back and forth around any object to confuse Moigel's advanced AI for an easy and quick win every time. If watching this exciting gameplay makes you want to Floigan your boy until you sploigan all over your bros, then you gotta try this game out. Good news is, this game is over before you know it in just a few short hours. 4 hours! Once you locate all the pieces for Moigel and complete the final minigame, you're greeted with the greatest ending in gaming history.
So, is that it? Didn't you get me a present, big boy? A pony? A puppy?
I thought my copy was glitched at first, but this is just how the ending is. It's It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. The really loud drum fill that cuts off awkwardly put me into space. I was laughing so hard. And when the credits are eventually over, the two brothers awkwardly stare at each other forever until you press a button. Forever frozen in time unless you free them from the hell that is their cursed brotherhood. And out of any game that could have easily sequel baited, Floigan Bros Episode 1 doesn't for some reason. Yeah, the game doesn't even provide any sort of suggestion as to what these two goobers could do next. You can see there's a city in the background sometimes, so maybe if there was a second episode, they'd explore that next. Honestly, I have no fucking clue. Aside from the game not being very fun, the characters just aren't that memorable either. I love their dumbass designs, for the most part, but they both fall perfectly into a cartoon stereotype and don't have any other real notable character traits to call their own. This wouldn't have even been a problem if the game were funny, but it just isn't. It's not funny. The writing just isn't there. They even managed to get big cartoon voice actors like Fred and Lumbersexual Dog Man. They both do a really good job like you'd expect, but the material's mid as hell.
My best friend's gone because of you and your stupid racism. I hate you!
I'm gonna give you 5 points for this!
Not only do I wish I could have enjoyed this game more, I really do, I wish I could understand how a sequel would have even ever happened. As much as I really do respect the developers' ambitions, they completely killed the game's chances of having any relevance before the Dreamcast died a tragic death. Mr. Thomas here wanted to pump out a lot of Floigan from those boygans. To me, it sounds like he honestly expected we'd be at Floigan Bros Episode 20, Moigel's botched circumcision at this point. They were expecting complete Floigan fever all across the globe. But honestly, I don't think this game would have ever caught on, even if it was released on a more successful console. But in respect for the hard work clearly put into this project, I'll be sure to celebrate Moigel Monday and Floigan Bros Friday each and every week till the day I die. That wasn't exactly how I expected this video to start out, but how about we jump over to the good old PC? Digital has been king on PC for the longest time, so surely there must be at least a few notable failures we can look at. Well, allow me to introduce you to Sin Episode's Emergence by Ritual Entertainment. Emergence is the only Sin episode that managed to drop in 2006. One single episode out of a planned grand total of 9 episodes. Again, with the totally reasonable and realistic expectations. I think it would be hard enough for a huge publisher to make a 9-episode experience, let alone these guys. Turns out this is actually an episodic sequel to 1998's Sin, another PC FPS shooter game, which I'll probably check out at some point, but not today. I thought it would be funnier to go into this thing completely blind, so I booted up Steam. Luckily, the game was on sale, and I was greeted with the game's incredible store description. You are John Blade, commander of the hardcore. Oh, I knew I was in for a total schlock fest, and I got really excited. Sin Episode's Emergence is a first-person shooter game made in the Source engine just like Half-Life 2, so while the comparisons are inevitable, I want to give this game the fairest chance I can. We meet our hero John Blade sprawled on top of a medical examination table, and instantly the game is not subtle at all about wanting to catch your attention with the beginning of a really interesting story. I mean boobs, big bouncing boobies. Nice Floigans, babe. Look, I love titties in my video games as much as the next trans girl, obviously, but I really don't think this game's character design is strong enough to make it excusable. Considering our hero has a completely random, unexplained, out-of-pocket sexual fantasy in the middle of war or whatever's going on, the problem is I think making the women in this game look sexy took a much higher priority than providing actual fleshed out characters. Shameless TNA and casual sexism aside,
Jessica finally got the uplink established. Guess she's not as useless as I thought.
this game is actually pretty dang solid. I gotta say, Sin Episodes is a surprisingly advanced FPS for the time. There's a lot of attention to detail that I really appreciated and found pretty neat. You can dispense paper towel. Yes, you heard me right. Always just a singular unit of paper towel. Just the one. Mr. Blade is all about protecting the environment from paper towel. There's fully controllable in-game touchscreens. You can shoot health canisters to create a cloud of blue stuff that can heal you when Johnny Boy breathes it in, which is admittedly a pretty cool and different mechanic, and the dismemberment's pretty advanced and gets pretty silly. I think the TNA focus is even more obvious when you take a look at the story, because the story is really hard to follow and a lot of the dialogue is very cringe.
Hey, I just pulled the specs on that building. They got a fat pipe you wouldn't believe.
I know I didn't play the first game, but the fact that I wasn't able to absorb anything story-wise from the game is very telling. But lucky for this game, it's pretty fun to play. The game feels aged pretty damn well, and the graphics are impressive for 2006. We never do get the chance to visit City 18 out in the distance, but we do get to fight some mutant and a helicopter on a rooftop. It's a bit bog standard, I guess, and it's no Half-Life 2 despite clearly trying to emulate that game, but seriously, it's not that bad, and it does have a few unique enough mechanics to set itself apart.
I'm gonna throw the woman.
This game is a bit buggy, though. I was flung out of the map twice during my playthrough, but otherwise, there wasn't anything too egregious. Despite this game being cancelled after only one brief episode, I'm just grateful it wasn't miserable to play. Ritual never got the chance to make any further episodes after being acquired by Mumbo Jumbo. Hey, if you're a pissed off Sin Episodes fan and you want to know who to go after, here he is. Here's the guy. I'll dox his address. Go get him. There's a ton of better FPS games from the era you could be playing. Again, Half-Life 2 is sitting right over there. It's got its Floigans out for you and it's begging you to play with them. But this game's a voluptuously decent time if you're looking for something a little different, but also familiar. Sticking on the PC, surely there has to be something else with only one episode on such a vast platform, right? Well, our next game's a real doozy. Developed by Crackpot Entertainment, Insecticide dropped on the Nintendo DS in 2008 as a very much full-fledged video game. This action-adventure detective romp starring Bugs tells a complete story and is fully completable from front to back, so there shouldn't be any problems here, right? Well, publisher Gamecock, yes, that is their actual name, also decided to drop a souped-up port on the PC of the game later the same year, but they made a familiar little oopsie-whoopsie because they decided to split the game into two parts. Company acquisition is once again our culprit for Part 2's cancellation when Gamecock was acquired by South Peak Games. Not very peak of them, I think. Insecticide was the brainchild of two previous LucasArts employees, a company primarily famous for its high-quality point-and-click adventure games. Insecticide shares some DNA with those games in its investigative missions. The game swaps between third-person shooter stages and point-and-click style investigations. You could also describe this game's style as Psychonauts at home, but I do think the game looks pretty good for the time, though I do have to point out that I really don't like the design of the gormless-ass main character. Most of the characters look fine, but I really hate when designers try to plaster what almost looks like a real human woman's face on top of an anthropomorphic character. It's so off-putting. Ugh. Let's get the shooter levels out of the way first, because they are turbo ass. The controls are fine, but everything just feels so limp. Lots of really lame platforming and shooting all the same bugs over and over again and really boring stages. It's a lot of really dull pointing and shooting, and all of the sound effects have the same impact as a wet sponge. I got stuck on this one bit where you have to find a missing lever to progress further into the stage. I was walking in circles trying to figure out what to do for a while, so much that I had to resort to referencing a playthrough online. It turns out that I just so happened to miss this borderline invisible rope bridge because it blends in with the evil liquid below. It actually pissed me off more that the bridge was impossible to see because the graphics made it blend in more than it would have if it was actually meant to be invisible. But other than that, these levels are just really samey and boring, and none of the different weapons you can get make the game feel any more dynamic. On a technical level, I wish more of the game consisted of these investigative levels, but still, that's not to say that they're even that good. Point-and-click adventure games are nothing if you can't get invested in the world or characters, and just like Floigan Bros, this game really didn't give me much of anything. You get a lot of stereotypical mystery and detective tropes with some bonus bug puns and jokes about how they like eating trash. It's okay, I guess. To get through the investigation stages, you have to talk to potential suspects and gather up clues, but these levels just end up boiling down to collect the few correct items and you win. If you interact with everything in a stage enough times, you're bound to just win eventually after some trial and error. It's really not bad, but it's lacking the fun puzzle solving that made LucasArts Adventures so fun to get through. Those games manage to make you feel really smart when you actually manage to figure out a solution for a deviously designed puzzle. This game feels like a bunch of slowly walking around, a bunch of talking. I still don't even know what's going on here, and gathering items. The only thing that really bothered me a ton was the really slow walking speed that was noticeably faster when you walk sideways, but the characters also just aren't very memorable. I'll remember an iconic duo like Manny and Glottis from Grim Fandango forever, but there just isn't much to these insects. I could see some other folks getting a lot out of these segments, but for me, they just didn't do much. Sadly, this game ends with a whimper when the final level returns to the third-person shooter gameplay and decides to go hard with these really janky tightropes for the majority of the final boss. Good God, these bits are borderline unplayable. Just really frustrating and unfun stuff. If the investigation segments look fun to you, then just be prepared to suffer through stuff like this too. I wish I had better things to say about Insecticide. I love the concept for this game. I see the vision even if things didn't pan out, and maybe I'll need to check out the DS original at some point. Maybe it's better. I'll check it out sometime, and if it's worth playing, I'll let you all know. But for this PC port that wasn't even finished, you know things are rough when I'm struggling to even come up with any good jokes at this game's expense. How do we tell them? Let's try jumping to the future, to everyone's favorite water cooler.
Xbox is about to become cool
mountain. You know what? I need some music to set the mood for this one. Xbox, play Justin Bieber. The early Xbox One era was a time of glorious failure and bizarre experimentation that absolutely nobody wanted. Believe it or not, our next game involves everyone's favorite crass little squirrel, Conker. Before he was reborn as a gormless meth baby, Conker's burial site was called Project Spark, a failed game creation tool thingy that closed its servers only a year and a half after launch. It lasted about as long as the Dreamcast in the US, but it wasn't nearly as fun. Xbox gamers were simply too distracted by Call of Duty, Advanced Warfare, Xbox One to pay any attention. Project Spark walked so dreams could run, I guess. And just like Dreams, PSS featured single-player campaigns crafted by the developers of PSS themselves, most notably Conker's Big Reunion. Using an episodic release model that was, predictably, if you've been paying any attention, immediately canceled after the first episode because nobody gave a shit about PSS. But regardless, Xbox found a way to put us back into Conker's tennis shoes for the first time in 9 years, or 13 years if you don't count the remake. You'd think that the series transition from N64 to Xbox One would be a smooth one, but PSS was here to ensure that it wouldn't be. Nothing related to PSS is purchasable anymore in the Xbox store, but my morbid curiosity and excitement to see my favorite game squirrel again actually drove me to buy this Conker campaign for 5 smackers back in like 2015. Was paying up for his grand return worth it? Nope. This thing was only $5, and I still felt ripped off. Conker embarks on a brief 25-minute adventure featuring controls similar to the N64 original, and yet they somehow managed to be jankier than ever before. You get a brief little platforming level, a lame turret section, a boring stealth segment, and admittedly, a pretty cool final boss against a giant Nazi bear. None of it is straight up terrible, but it just doesn't have the same riz as Bad Fur Day. Not even close. And throughout the whole experience, it's obvious the engine just wasn't built to handle a 3D platformer like this with its awkward, jittery controls. The biggest flaw of all, though, is the complete lack of understanding of what made the original game's personality so memorable. What made Conker N64 so good was more than just the shock humor and excessive swearing, but they were certainly very important parts of its identity. Neutering the experience with a T rating didn't help things. And again, the game just isn't funny. No laughing permitted this time. But that's a major problem facing any potential Conker sequels, because the original game's writing was so entrenched in the personalities of its creator Chris Seaver and the staff over at Rareware. As much as I always would have loved to see a proper Conker sequel, I can't exactly say I was devastated when Conker's Big Reunion episodes were cancelled. It rehashes so many ideas from the original game anyway, so I have no clue where the game even would would have gone next. And I honestly think I can sleep peacefully without knowing. I can have a superior Conker experience over on Dreams anyway. When people try to tell you that PlayStation doesn't have any games, they're just fucking lying. Look at this game, it looks fucking amazing! But then I realized that Conker wasn't the only episodic adventure included in Puss, because there was another one included for free that I never bothered to check out until today, called Void Heroes. I'm really starting to understand why all these games only got one episode, because this is probably the most boring game yet. This is your most bog standard overhead action RPG, and man, I'm really struggling to find anything to say about this shit. What I can see is why nobody was sold on Puss in the first place. If this is what Microsoft was using to try and sell people on the concept, at least the game's controls feel more polished than Big Reunion, and wow! I wasn't expecting to see Conker here as a playable character too. I gotta admit, that's pretty neat at the very least. He's the only hero available that is an uninspired fantasy Drek, so of course I had to choose him as my primary character. The game tries to act like it's an epic story with a narrator and stuff, but it's basically just discount Skylanders, but without any of the fun or Richard Horvitz screaming into your ears. And then the game soft-locked on me. Well, since the game's done with me, I guess I'm done with it too. Please ignore that I could have easily just reset the game with its generous autosaves. While I really did want to try and finish as many of these games as I could, I hope you can understand that my brain can only survive a severe lack of stimulation for so long without collapsing in on itself. Damn it, I still want to find a game with only one episode that I actually would have really wanted to see more content from. I guess Sin Episodes was pretty good, but And then I discovered something, because I was stunned to find out that game publishers have been promising episodic adventures to gamers even further back. I'm really surprised to say that we're going all the way back to the mid-90s with the Super Nintendo. That's right, motherfuckers, we're going retro. Yes, even the SNES was cursed with retroactively false advertisements on game boxes. I am just praying to Mario's big fat floating head that these games will be at least a little more exciting. Interestingly enough, our next game has connections with the record label Motown of all things. A label that released material from famous African-American artists like Stevie Wonder and the Jacksons. That's pretty cool, actually. I can't wait to see what kind of interesting games come out of this developer. They made the Babies Kids game and one basketball game, both of which were considered two of the worst games ever made. And then they immediately died. Forever. Fucking rip.
Motown Software.
I have a smoke.
Game Library.
The basketball game in question is Rap Jam Volume 1. There is no Volume 2. Was there ever actually a Volume 2 ever planned? We'll never know, because these guys couldn't stay alive long enough to tell us. And even Wikipedia is confused. I was really hoping for something more interesting here, but you better watch out, motherfuckers, because Rennie's bored again! The only things this game has going for it are some incredible box art, and I guess it does make for a pretty fun time capsule because it features some of the most famous rappers and R&B artists of the era, including Kulayo. The profiles of these guys are pretty incredible too, I won't lie. Otherwise, it's a really dull basketball game with unintuitive controls that I just couldn't figure out for the life of me. I'm sorry to say, I do not know shit about sports, but I feel like even if I did, it really wouldn't help me out that much. Again, I wanted to finish all these games, but it just isn't happening with this one. What really confuses me though, this game's developer was directly connected with a popular music label. So it's insane that they didn't manage to get any beats from any actual rap or R&B songs on the soundtrack. This game has such a limp dick soundtrack that sounds exactly what I imagine somebody hears when they incorrectly claim that the SNES has a bad sound chip. I disagree, good sir. This is not best soundtrack. There isn't even any exciting music to enjoy when you're playing the actual game. This first stage, or whatever you'd want to call it, just has a bunch of wind sounds and people grunting while jorking their Floigans. It's really fucking awkward. I am actually going to die of boredom if things get any worse, dude. I'm at high risk. I sure hope the next game isn't 80% exploring indistinguishable dark caves for hours and nothing else. God damn it. The same console that housed masterpieces like Chrono Trigger and Super Metroid is doing me dirty yet again with J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings Volume 1. What a catchy title. I'd be tempted to skip this one since it's technically an adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings Volume 1 on DOS, and that version actually did technically get a sequel called blah 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 same shit Volume 2 The Two Towers, but unfortunately for me, the SNES game is pretty different, so we're in this one together, friends. I seriously didn't expect the SNES to be the lowest of the low when it came to providing any excitement. If these two games were my only knowledge of anything retro games, I would have assumed all old games were boring as fuck. Now, admittedly, I still haven't gotten around to watching the Lord of the Rings movies, let alone reading the books, but I do know a decent amount about the series through osmosis. I do want to compliment the game a little bit. The music is very pretty, unlike Rap Jam, and the story does seem like it's at least pretty accurate to Fellowship of the Ring, as far as I can tell at least. That's about all I got. Sorry, I know that isn't much, but I was born with obscure video game autism, not Lord of the Rings autism. The surprising amount of patience that I have to get through bad platformers and action games just does not translate the same way for shitty RPGs and sports games. There's no way in hell I'd ever be able to make it through this game in one piece. The controls are atrocious. At the very beginning of the game, it forces you to kill the same wolves and bats over and over to slowly, and I mean slowly, level up your Frodo Bobo, and the delay between pressing the attack button and when you actually attack an enemy is literally an entire second long.
Alright then, keep your good controls.
It's so inexcusably horrible. And after peeking at a long play and seeing that so much of this game is just grinding and exploring boring caves that look the same for hours and hours on end, I was not gonna suffer through this thing. It's not even bad in a funny or interesting way, so why even bother? It'd be a complete waste of time. I would so much rather play through Gollum than play an hour of this shit again. At least that game has a cool breeding minigame. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw this cartridge into the deep dark fires of Mount Doom, because otherwise, I'm never gonna make it through this video. At this point, I am so fucking desperate for a game that forces me to say, you know what, I can at least see why the publisher was so confident that there'd be more than one entry, to the point that they just have to tell the world there'd be more episodes in the future before those episodes even exist. I am begging for something so obviously brilliant that I feel it's an actual crime that we didn't get more of that sweet promised content. They literally attach episode 1 to fucking anything, huh? Fix and Foxi, episode 1, Lupo. You've gotta be fucking kidding me. Of all things to exist, there's an obscure Game Boy Color game out there that advertised itself as episode 1 for no apparent reason? Okay, well, I'm the one who decided to make this video, so I guess this obscure Germany exclusive Game Boy Color game is our next subject. So together, let's look into Goofy and Yakko's Mpreg Baby. Apparently, Fix and Foxi is a popular German comic strip that's been running all the way since 1953. Honestly, now that sounds pretty interesting. I'd love to learn more about this popular comic from a different country than the one I grew up in. Too bad we're stuck talking about the goddamn stupid video game instead. Okay, I'm being a little too mean. But my hopes aren't exactly very high after the last few games I played. And no bias, but I'm kinda pissed we don't get to play as or even see the titular foxes in this game. But at least this gormful fellow Lupo looks like a pretty nice guy, I assume. I have never interacted with this series before in my life, and I'm happy to report that the game didn't make me feel like I know anything more about it. I don't expect much from a Game Boy Color game in the story department, but I don't fully even understand the plot here. But it would seem that the moral of this game is fuck landlords, which is pretty fucking based because Lupo is at risk of getting kicked out of his house forever, as the deed, or I'm sorry, the certificate What? Was stolen. That bit confused me at first, but I assume that a deed to a house is called a certificate in Germany. I don't know if that's even true, but if I have any German audience members, please tell me if that's correct or not. Once more, we get another game that doesn't inspire emotions such as happiness or even anger from the player. This game is about as reguloid standard slop as it gets for licensed Game Boy platformers, and it only takes like half an hour to beat. It's nothing. It's like a quarter Floigan. The controls and level design are a little rough. In fact, the first level was the most annoying because you can't land on some pixels that seem like you should be able to stand on them. And Lupo here, he just loves getting caught on slopes because they weren't really programmed properly. The bosses are piss easy though, basically nothing, and this bat boss didn't have any music for some reason. Oh god, it's like Rap Jam Volume 1 all over again. There's a weird boss that gives me bad creepypasta vibes. There's no actual proper boss here, you just have to platform to the end of the level while your health continuously drains without explanation. How spooky. And I don't think I've ever seen a game where the final boss just straight up refuses to fight you and surrenders immediately. That's certainly different. Oh, but the music's a bop. Not the best you'll ever hear on the handheld, but I appreciate that the composer put a lot more effort into it than you'd expect. Dang, what a set of games, huh? So many publishers with such sky-high expectations, with such hubris, and yet most of these games are mid or straight up bad. It's a shame, but I guess I shouldn't have been so surprised. Thank goodness that's every single episodic game that's only ever gotten one episode ever.
Not so fast, bitch. It's me, your iconic evil fucked up evil twin Reddy. You forgot there's one more game left. The game's so bad, I'm gonna force you to play it.
Okay, hi? And what game would that be exactly?
Oh, nothing much. Just the worst PS2 game your dumbass has ever heard of.
Pryzm Chapter 1, The Dark Unicorn. How did you know? I literally already beat the game on stream weeks ago. I knew it was probably gonna end up being in this video. I was just hoping that if I acted like there were no more games on the list, that nobody would, say anything. Oh, well, that kinda sucks. Forcing you to play shitty games against your will is kinda my only job. I've been carefully planning this whole thing out for months. You do know this trope usually involves forcing a YouTuber into playing a game that's infamously terrible, right? Nobody even knows about this fucking game. I kinda discovered it on my own, Not to mention, making jokes about this trope has already kinda become a trope in and of itself, so like, you're kinda completely useless in more ways than one at this point. I mean, look, we're literally twin sisters, family, and I know I'm evil and stuff, and you don't want me around, but I was really, really excited about this whole thing. You really want me to feel bad that I'm not letting you torture me with a bad video game? No, I guess not. I just didn't think you'd kick me out this fast. You are kicking me out, right? I'm not tweaking about that, right? Yes, I am kicking you out. Okay, so like my last paycheck hasn't come in yet, and I don't have enough on my card for an Uber ride back home to mom's, and fuck, yeah, I get it. Just DM me your PayPal so you can go back home, get out of my hair, and let me finish this video, please. Yeah, thanks, sis. I'm really sorry I made this so awkward. Yeah, sure. Bye. Well, that was stupid, and here it is, Pryzm Chapter 1, The Dark Unicorn. Now this game right here, hoo boy, is something special. When I first started working on this video, I just about finished up playing all the games on my list until one fateful day when I was browsing a retro game store with friends, and that's when I spotted it. I was like, Pryzm. What is this queer and unfamiliar video game software I see before me? And that's when I saw something else on the spine. Those accursed words, Chapter 1. There are plenty of horrible video games out there that nobody should ever have the misfortune of playing, especially from front to back. You got your ultra famous ones, like your Superman 64s and whatnot, but there's plenty of god-awful video games that nobody ever talks about. Pryzm here is special because I found found it. It has become my special little video game nemesis. I know I'm obviously not the first person to ever play this game, as much as the sheer lack of long plays on YouTube would lead you to believe, but at the same time I kind of feel like I discovered this horrible travesty on my own. I feel like I've discovered a demonic entity, and now I'm here to warn you all about it.
No, I'm an actual demon.
Before I even get into describing why I hate this game so goddamn much, yes, I know there are technically worse games than this that you can find deep in the PS2 library. From the borderline non-games from Phoenix Games to the lazy cash grabs from Data Design Interactive. But I would gleefully play any of that garbage before I touch Pryzm ever again. Unlike all those games, Pryzm was made by a big-time developer that should have known better than this. I know this all sounds really dramatic, but trust me, this game fucking deserves it. Pryzm is an anomaly of game design. While it seems pretty unique in a lot of ways that seem admirable at first, it also sounds a lot simpler than it truly is when just describing the basics. You play as an old wizard man on a unicorn, and you have to save the populace that are being transformed into evil mutants. In each and every level, all you have to do is locate these evil flowers that are turning citizens into mutants and destroy them. That's it, that's the game. Platform around on your horse, destroy evil flowers with your magic, rinse and repeat through all 4 worlds until you unlock and defeat the final boss. Sounds pretty doable, right? Well, I only have a few teensy tiny little issues to talk about today. Number 1, the game doesn't explain how to play it properly. Pryzm features a lovely little tutorial that teaches you how to ride your rarity, how to jump, cast magic, all that good stuff. Great, that's just great. Problem is when you actually get thrown into the proper levels. Nothing about the actual structure of the game is explained to you at all. You'll find yourself in the first level throwing magic spells at mutants and flowers aimlessly, all the while you'll be wondering how the fuck you're even supposed to refill your health and magic meters. The game tells you none of this, by the way, so I had to discover how to beat these ugly ass stages on my lonesome. It turned out that you can only refill your health and magic after defeating an evil flower. Once you defeat one, the ground around it is restored and it fills up everything for you. Okay, that's fine, but now, number 2. How the fuck do I kill the big evil flower? The game also doesn't explain how to kill these fucking flowers, so you'll find yourself wasting all your magic fighting all these disgusting enemies, including but not limited to these tiny little gremlin creatures that run inhumanly fast like a Smiling Friends character until you inevitably run out of magic over and over just to inevitably die. I eventually noticed that some of the enemies are connected to the flowers via vague evil energy electricity and some aren't. This means that you always need to specifically kill the mutants attached to the flower first. Whatever you do, ignore every stupid ass enemy not attached to the flowers or else they will simply waste all your magic and time. You get absolutely nothing out of killing enemies that aren't attached to the flowers. But all that aside, once you defeat all the attached enemies, the flower finally becomes vulnerable with zero graphical indication that the flower is now vulnerable. Once you figure out what you're supposed to do in each level, everything should be okay, right? Problem 3. Sometimes the game doesn't give you enough magic to beat the fucking flowers. This game is going to turn me into an AVGN clone because it's driving me to the brink of insanity already. Yes, you heard me right. In a game where you can only refill your magic in very specific spots that are always separated from evil flowers, because these spots are always the graves of other evil flowers you have already defeated. It is completely possible to not have enough magic to defeat a flower and the required enemies surrounding it. Now, backtracking all the way back to the healing / magic giving ground every time you need to refill sounds like a big pain in the ass. Well, it is, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal, right? Once you refill your stuff, you can just run all the way back and fight the evil flower. And number 4, the enemies fucking respawn. Yes. The enemies always respawn. And it isn't only when you leave an area and return. No. It's always on a time crunch. So if you don't defeat all the enemies attached to a flower, too fucking bad, bucko. Have fun fighting them all over again because they've already all respawned at that point. And again, your magic never refills while you're fighting things. So you have to either backtrack to Healthy Groundy to refill all your shit, or you actually might as well kill yourself itself because every flower is a checkpoint, so it's actually faster to allow your enemies to grind you into a cloud of orange dust than to waste your time pointlessly backtracking. What's really insulting about all this is that the game does give you a melee attack that controls like the net and ape escape, and it doesn't use up any magic, but it doesn't even do any damage against half the enemies you need to defeat, which just adds insult to injury when you're stuck flailing at invincible enemies, desperately wishing that you could actually fucking do something instead of awaiting your inevitable demise. But whether or not you'll actually even be able to beat an evil flower and the enemies surrounding it is inconsistent because problem 5 goes west. The game is so jank. There is little strategy at all to the way you beat enemies. Now yes, you do acclimate to the crap factor a little bit while playing, but the vast majority of battles involve spamming casting magic in the direction of the thing you want to die until it eventually just agrees that it's time for it to die. The amount of hits that an enemy takes is never consistent, and the jank-ass physics system ensures that enemies will be flying around in crazy random directions, so there's never any consistency to anything that's happening. It's pure insanity. I repeated this particular flower so many times, doing the same shit over and over and over again, running out of magic again and again, not knowing what to do, and eventually the things I needed to die just died correctly this time and I won. I can't even explain it. It's just pain. Pain that eventually ends when the game finally decides that it's let you suffer enough. Did I do it? Oh, I did! Oh.
Okay.
Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Ah! Ah!
I thought you had no magic.
I did
How
it.
did you do that with empty magic?
Oh my god.
I did it. I don't know how the fuck I just did the same shit as every other time, but I did it. Let it be known, I didn't do anything different. Problem dicks. This game has the worst bosses designed by anyone in the history of mankind. The main levels are boring and bad enough, but my god, the bosses are just another level of rancid. Getting through these bosses was like their own mini Sisyphean trials, because everything from sound to visuals lack any impact and nothing is telegraphed to the player. Please, just watch me try to beat these bosses. Take a look at their patterns. Do you see any specific indication as to when you're specifically supposed to be hitting them with magic? Even if the developers struggled to telegraph when you can harm a boss, the issue could have been easily avoided by allowing the player to deal a consistent small bit of damage to the boss when spamming attacks at it. If that were the case at least, then you could at least put two titties together and figure out when the most effective moment to hit the boss is. But no, this game is absolutely nonsensical when it comes to inflicting damage on bosses. Normal enemies don't indicate that they're being damaged at all, except debatably when they're being flung around like big dildos at the Big Dildo Festival, but at the very least, their health is relatively low, so they will eventually die, even if the amount of attacks you need to throw at them is inconsistent. Bosses have a health meter, but no matter how much you spam attacks at a boss, the amount of health lost is never consistent. Sometimes they'll lose a fair amount of health over time when using the spamming strategy, and then after a few attempts of fighting them, it'll just stop working for no fucking reason. It's utterly baffling, and I can't even begin to guess why the game is like this. What the game wants you to do is figure out the boss's patterns and attack them at the right time to deal massive damage. Normally that's totally fine, so what's wrong with that? Well, there's no discernible way to figure out the right time to attack any of these bosses. There's no indication given to the player at all, so it's a complete fucking guessing game. Luckily for me, there was a savior though, because there is a grand total of one full regular playthrough of this game on the entirety of YouTube that I could find, and it's in Spanish. It does have a weird ass AI thumbnail that recreates the cover art when this dude could have just simply used the cover art that already exists, but whatever. Beggars can't be choosers when playing through one of the most poorly designed games of all time. Somehow this dude just knew exactly when to attack each boss. So the good news is I was just able to copy his exact gameplay and attack the bosses when he attacked them to defeat them. Not exactly fun or intuitive at all, but hooray! The bosses are over with now, right? No! Because they won't do the move. They won't do the move. Some of these bosses are so cruel that they will simply refuse to perform the moves that make them vulnerable for no discernible reason. You can fight this tree fucker for minutes on end, and he'll just straight up refuse to do the exact move that he needs to perform in order for you to do any damage, and there's seemingly no way to force him into doing it when you need him to. Sometimes he'll just get into a loop of chasing you around aimlessly, and you can't even hurt him at all if he's stuck doing that. I guess I had some luck moving to an elevated spot above the boss. It seemed like it was sometimes a little more likely he'd do the stupid dumbass move I needed him so desperately to perform, but that wasn't consistent at all, so I just straight up have no idea what's even going on. No, just gonna follow me everywhere? Just gonna fucking chase me and never do the move? Okay, you're never gonna do it, huh? Do the move. Do the goddamn move! Do the fucking move! Do the fucking move! In the other person's gameplay, he does other shit. Do something! He needs to do the other move to fucking be vulnerable. He just chases me forever. Why? Do the goddamn move. Do the move that makes you vulnerable, you piece of fucking shit. Do the move, please. I'm begging you to do the fucking move. Do the move. Do it, please.
Do the roar.
Do the move? Why don't you do the move the other couple fucking rounds ago? I don't know. Why don't you do the move? Why? This game is impossible to follow. I was just trapped in this game's insane whims at all times, even when I had a perfect visual guide. I'm really missing Floigan Bros right now, guys. Problem. Unavoidable and borderline unavoidable attacks. This game is full to the brim with bullshit attacks that I'm at least 90% sure are completely unavoidable. And even if they are in some way, it's extremely fucking difficult to dodge any of them. From little ice gremlins that freak the fuck out and die in one hit in hilarious form. But they're so fast and small that they're ensured to drain your health really fast. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, there's no invincibility frame, so anything and everything will just continuously deplete your health non-stop until you fart out of this plane of existence. I love this fucking game, guys. It's so good. There's these archers that you literally can't avoid at all in the fucking tree boss. Then there's these plant guys or whatever that send spikes to where you're standing. Why do they place enemies in the green safe space when they can't hurt you? Look, watch this, watch. Nothing is happening to me because I can't be killed. Wait, can I be killed? Oh, not over here. Over here, slightly to the right, I can't be killed. But there's nothing you can do to avoid them other than jumping or running away. But then you don't have enough time to kill all the monsters and then the flower and then, oh yeah, forgot to mention, problem, fuck. Because every enemy respawns so fast, the developers hate you with every fiber of their being and sometimes place the enemies as far away from an evil flower as possible, meaning that you have to kill all the required enemies and then rush all the way up to the flower in an extremely strict time limit. It's so cool and so fun, and problem... writing is hard, I'm dying. And as the skeletons on the cover mock you in betweenst, is that a word? Themselves, you might think about consulting the manual for help on getting through this atrocious filth of a game. Whatever you do, do not consult the manual. Rip it in half as soon as you can and run away in fear, because this is the least helpful manual I have ever tried to read in my entire fucking life. How can a manual be so verbose and yet so meaningless and unhelpful? There's literally a massive fucking paragraph describing a single button press in the game. I'm trying to learn how to play a game, guys. I'm not reading Homer's The Odyssey. And yet, throughout all of this writing, they don't explain how the game actually fucking functions. Probably because the people making this shit couldn't even understand the abomination they spawned. Problem. I'm so tired, guys. I have run out of energy to scream at this game and my throat hurts. I need a doctor. I've had so much to complain about already with this fucking rancid game disc. So please, allow me to quickly and calmly explain the rest of the problem so my blood vessels don't burst. This game is extremely repetitive. The mission is always the same. Kill the bad flowers, over and over. It's so aggressively boring when it's not so aggressively frustrating. The controls aren't even the worst part of this game, but they do make platforming a nightmare at times. The CG is really gross. It makes the unicorns look like swollen assholes. Ew. The music is awful, and sometimes devolves into random noises from a sample CD. Most of the bosses will not die by spamming attacks, but the Ice Golem and final boss do for some reason.
What the fuck?
Bye? Okay, bye. Amazing.
Why does it lose its eyes? Oh my god!
This is so good. It's the best thing in the game.
What?
This is the best thing in the game. I think we found the best thing in the game.
I guess they just didn't
quality.
expect the projectiles to go that far.
Their battery
wait,
dies.
wait, what is that thing that's like... There's something trailing behind... Do you see that? Do you see that?
Wait. That is
What is that? What is that?
Right. Wait.
And now it's not there.
Wait. Not this time. It is.
There it is! Oh, wait.
It's you!
It's you! What?
It's your reflex.
What the fuck is this game? This game is beyond horrible. What the fuck is wrong with this fucking game?
Randy, there's a little narrative. It's deep.
Truly free.
The horror is over. Yes, I am truly free. I am truly free from this shit.
The game is finally over.
What the fuck would they do with a chapter 2? What do you fucking mean? There's nothing here. There's not even a story. Like, the story is nothing. The game is nothing. There's nothing here. What is this?
A horse.
What was this shit? Why? Just why? Why is the game like this? Why did they think there would be a chapter fucking 2? Why would they expect that? What a horrible fucking game. Wow. Just like, holy shit. Despite all of that, and as much as I fucking hate this game, I do want to make it extremely clear that I really do respect the developers and all of the hard work they put into this thing, and all of the love they clearly put into this project. Huh. Crazy how that just happens. I'm so done talking about this game. I can't anymore. Now, are there worse games out there? Without a doubt, yes. But this is genuinely the worst PS2 game I've ever played by a major developer. Yes, major, because fucking DICE from EA crafted this abomination. Yeah, the Battlefield guys made this thing. The same people who made a game as exciting and fun as the original Mirror's Edge made this too. I guess this game was their boot camp before they went to 95% war forever. I know very real people with skills and lovely families put their passion and full effort into everything they could with this game, I'm sure. I'm sure DICE wanted this game to be a banger, but my god, it's baffling just how wrong this piece of shit project went. Most games have a point to them, but I'm struggling to understand why this game even exists. Nobody cares about it. It has no Wikipedia article. Hell, even fucking Rap Jam Volume 1 has a Wikipedia article. Nothing on the cutting room floor, no information behind the making of this thing that I can even find. There's nothing. Apparently, Pryzm was unceremoniously summoned from hell to terrorize the public sometime in 2002. It was sold at a budget price of $200 bucks. $200. Oh god. It was sold at a budget price of $20, which sounds like a good thing, but then you remember the game in question. Is Pryzm Chapter 1 the Dark Unicorn? I think that should show how little faith publisher TDK, commonly otherwise known as the Dick Kings, had in this game. And yet, somehow, they still had the gall to imply that there'd be multiple future chapters of this mess. This travesty, with the worst gameplay imaginable. Bland, nothing fairy tale story, unlikable characters, and oh yeah, that I forgot to mention, never shut the fuck up, by the way. They repeat the same things over and over throughout the level. Oh, he sure hates doing the move that makes him vulnerable. He sure hates that.
I can't deal with the fucking voice line.
It's all the worst thing I've ever found in my life on this earth? By the way, I was about this close to finishing this goddamn video when I realized that I forgot something. To explain that this game makes it to where every level has a different way of casting magic and different attacks that work completely differently, have different effects on enemies, have different effects on you, and they make no sense. It's always changing. This game is so fucking stupid. I wasn't even able to explain everything that's wrong with it in 20 goddamn minutes. So, did Pryzm deserve a second chapter? What do you think the answer to that is? Did Pryzm also deserve a tie-in comic at the back of the manual from DC that describes the game's backstory that I'll never be able to read now due to my seething, well-deserved hatred? No, it most certainly did not. And most of all, did it deserve a shockingly generous 7 out of 10 from IGN? No! You know what? I think I should give the game another chance. Let's give it another go, old friend. But you do deserve many lovely chapters in your life to cherish with your loved ones. So thank you for witnessing and supporting me as I suffered through this madness. And please, do yourself a favor and never play Pryzm. Check out any of the other games in this video if you want, but for your safety, please do not touch the Pryzm. Wait, why was I just awkwardly warped to a courtroom with no explanation?
Rennie Ultrafox, for your non-specific crimes against the Epic Gamer Council, whatever that is, you are hereby sentenced to 10 years in prison, I tell you what.
Oh, prison? After what I just suffered through, prison doesn't even sound that bad.
Oh wait, my bad. Did I say 10 years in prison? I meant to say 10 years in Pryzm, the video game!
Oh no!